Right, so I've got the keys to a Citroen C1. Shubs has kindly lent me his one, and there's a ton of these here. I mean, there's one there, there's two over there, there's one here, white one, red one, and I've got a black one over there next to that white one, and there's a grey one. I mean, which one am I supposed to, which one of these are his? The worst thing is, there's no central locking, so I have to what, manually put the key in every car? For goodness sakes. Which one is it? I really hope it's this one. This is the nicest one, nicest color. 5 doors. Nope, yes, a 5-door. Nope, this one ain't so bad either. Wouldn't mind this one. Damn it, dear Lord, that means it's got to be this one, the worst one in my opinion. And the reason why I say it's the worst one is look at the state of this. The worst one. But for the sake of the video, yep, it is this one. And just look at the state of it. Oh my god, this isn't even clean to sit in. You're watching Car Nitty. My name is Mizan, and today I'm going to be discussing whether you should get a manual license in 2023. Now, I passed almost a decade ago, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think back then it was even an option to get an auto license. The people that would get auto licenses were the people that tried to do manual and they kept failing, so they resorted to an auto license to pass quicker. Nowadays, I don't think it's as frowned upon as it once was, because with electrification around the corner and EVs being autos, there's no need to actually know how to drive a manual, is there? On top of that, even if you're not even going to get into an EV anytime soon, people finance cars nowadays. And when you finance a car, let's be honest, you're probably going to get an automatic anyway, because modern cars are better suited with automatic transmissions. But what if you're going to drive old cars? And this is where manual licenses are key. We've got 2 cars here. I've got a BMW E46 330 Ci, and I've got a Citroen C1. The only thing both cars have in common is the fact that both manuals. And this video is going to discuss why a manual license is so pivotal. You're either going to want a manual license for one of these or one of these. So, how about I go out for driving the BMW first and discuss why you need a manual license for something like this. Right, you now join me in the 330, and I've actually reviewed this car on my channel already. And if you want to watch an in-depth review on this exact car, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner so you guys can watch that. One thing to note is the ownership has changed since that video. Back then this car was owned by Ibrahim, who's a very good friend of mine, and another good friend of mine has now bought the car off him, and his name is Tahir. Shout out to him for lending me the car for this video. And on top of that, Tahir is, funny enough, the co-founder of Car Nitty. So me and him started the channel together, but due to life commitments he wasn't able to continue, so he eventually left and I carried it on. But that's a fun little story which I'm sure I'll cover one day in greater detail. So what can I say about the 330? It's a beautiful car. Honestly, I love this car with my heart. It's almost as if it's my own car. That's how much love I have for it. Now, it's got a 5-speed manual gearbox, and I wouldn't change that for the world. Now, you can get this car with a 5-speed ZF transmission, but they are horrendous gearboxes for several reasons. The first one is fuel economy. They are really, really bad on fuel. This car is genuinely quite good on fuel. I mean, Tahir averages an average of about 25 mpg in this car. That's more than what I get at my R32, and I've got a DSG. So it goes to show that the manual gearbox is more efficient than even a DSG. I mean, the R32 is obviously a completely different engine, but if they're similar size, they're both 6 cylinders and they're both around 3 litres. And I honestly love this car. If you've watched that video, you'll know how much I loved driving it. And I'm so happy that my friend sold it, but then another friend bought it. So the car is still in the family. I mean, look, this car technically shouldn't even be in my hands right now. So I'm so thankful for that alone. And this car has to be a manual. It just has to. If this car wasn't a manual, the value of the car alone would be less than half of what it is now. So this car is worth around 5 grand, 5.5 grand. It's got about,
Speed limit is 40 miles per hour.
It's got well under 100,000 miles. Now this car would be worth way less if it was an auto.
Speed camera in 100 yards. Speed limit is 40 miles per hour.
This car having a manual gearbox, honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. The reason for that is, if you have an automatic car, you are robbing yourself of the experience of driving one of these. This engine is so silky smooth. It's a 3-litre straight 6 naturally aspirated engine from BMW's best era, and you would honestly rob yourself of the opportunity had this been a automatic. Now, the automatic option is a 5-speed ZF automatic transmission, and they're really bad gearbox for 2 reasons. Number one, fuel efficiency. They're really bad on fuel. They're very clunky as well, so they're not very smooth. And the other bad thing is they're not that most reliable. Whereas the manual gives you better fuel economy and it's more fun. It's win-win, and it just suits the era of the car. I mean, why would you buy an automatic E46? I honestly don't know, unless there is a reason why you can't drive manual. With any car, there's always going to be one gearbox that's better than the other. And it varies. Sometimes the automatic is the more desirable option. I'll give an example. On the R32, the DSG is the more desirable option above the manual, and that's fine. But you can't take anything away from the manual. In this scenario, the manual is better, and that's a hard proven fact. You honestly can't sum up the experience of driving a naturally aspirated car with a manual gearbox, and you're just changing through the gears. It's so much fun, and I would love to demonstrate that now for you guys. Honestly, I just love the drive of this car. I love it to death. It's such a responsive car. I love the noise it produces. I love the fact that my left foot is actually doing something to make this car move. It's not just point the steering wheel and just shoot. There's so much work going into making this car move, and it comes down to the driver. People like to think, yeah, I'm a driver, I know how to drive. Well, guess what? If you're driving an automatic car, there isn't a lot of skill involved in making it go down that road. When you're driving a manual car, it's all on you, and that's something that I can't put a price on. If you're an enthusiast or a petrolhead, you have to get the manual. You just have to. I'm sorry, but there's certain cars where you have to learn the trade of being a manual driver, and I don't think you can call yourself a true petrolhead unless you've done that. I brought the 330 out because Tahir's a very good friend of mine, and I asked him to lend it to me, and he has. Now, the honest truth is there's several other cars that are manual, and they're amazing cars, and I'm going to list them on top of my head. Audi RS4 B7, right? I've reviewed one of them on the channel. Amazing car. Back then, DSGs were around, but Audi chose to put a manual in that car, and I'm so glad they did. And that was the only option, by the way, and it's what makes the car what it is. And if you're listening to anything that I've said and it really makes your mouth salivate, or you're thinking, you know what, you're preaching to the choir, you need a manual license, because you understand what I'm trying to sum up. It's hard for me to even give you the words to sum up why you need a manual car. It's hard. All I can do is hope you can just see the joy in my face as I drive this car and realize that, you know what, manual is crazy. And it is. I wouldn't trade it for the world. The more time I spend behind something like this manual E46, the more I realize how my soul is. Honestly, I'm built for a car like this. Don't be surprised if after Tahir I become the owner of this car. That's one thing I say to you, because honestly, this car suits my personality way more than the R32, way more. It's just a bit of me, isn't it? And if you're someone that's watching this video and you're thinking, you know what, that BMW is beautiful, and you know what, he looks like he's having fun, I want a bit of that, then guess what? You need to get a manual license. Because yes, you may drive automatic cars in the future, but for now, whilst we have the next 10, 15, 20 years, drive as many manual cars as you can. They're so much fun, and I'm sad that the future generations won't even know what it was like. We're going to be telling them stories, showing them YouTube videos on what a manual car was like. Why would you want to be part of that when you can say that I've been there, I've lived it, I've done it? And honestly, I love this car so much, and a huge part of that is the gearbox. It's annoying at times, let's be honest. I mean, when you're in the city and you're going through stop-start traffic, you're constantly changing. Your left foot gets so tired. But do I care? No, I don't. Because when I'm on an open stretch of road and I'm literally shifting through every gear, I love it. I feel so connected with the machine. There's a relationship between man and car that only a manual gearbox can do. And an automatic gearbox just never comes close. It doesn't matter what gearbox we're talking about, whether we're talking about Porsche's PDK or BMW ZF8, it does not matter. A manual gearbox is the most purest form of driving a car, the most purest. And I hope that this BMW captures why the manual is a skill that you have to learn. I really hope it does, because I'm running out of words. I almost don't want to talk to the camera right now. I genuinely just want to focus on the road and and just drive this car, because this car brings me so much joy. It's beyond belief. If you're a petrol head of any shape or form, you have to learn it. I don't think you can pass in auto and call yourself a petrol head. That's just me being honest, unfortunately. So if you are a petrol head, get yourself a manual license. You have to. Don't deny yourself of this experience and look back and think you really shot yourself in the leg, because you don't have to. The moment is here for you to do what you need to make sure you learn that skill now. Cars like this are going to go down in the history books by far. And I'm so privileged to have driven cars. I mean, all the cars I've had on Carnegie, manual and auto. But manual cars will always have a soft spot for me, because knowing that they're going to hit the graveyard first. And on that note, what's going to happen is I'm now going to get back to camp and jump in the C1 to discover the other element of why you should own a manual car. But that's the more boring side of this video. Wish I don't have to park this up. I wish I could carry on driving this, but it's what it is.
300 yards.
Right guys, you now join me in the C1. And what a stark difference it is from the BMW. I mean, the BMW was such a refined manual old car, and this is honestly a bag of and that's me putting it lightly. So why have I got the BMW in the same video as something like this, or why am I even driving something like this, is because this is the other spectrum of owning a manual car. The spectrum I've already discussed is the having a car that you can own and be proud of, like a nice manual cruiser. And there's multiple options out there. The E46 is just one example. Now, this is the other spectrum. And what we've got is a daily driver. It's cheap to buy, cheap to run, cheap to insure. And you might want to buy one of these. Maybe you want to buy it for yourself. Gearbox is really clunky. Maybe you want to buy it. I feel like I'm in neutral right now. I don't think I'm in gear. Gas. Okay, no, I am in gear. Sorry. It's a really bad manual gearbox. But anyway, this car is the complete opposite. It's something that is not desirable. The BMW is so desirable, so smooth, that if you wanted a nice old car, you'd get a BMW. This obviously isn't as old. It's a 2007. The BMW was a 2002. But it's a completely different era. And something like this is something you'd buy if you just pass your driving test, and this is the whole point of the video, right? It's if you're a newly passed driver, what should you get? So realistically, even if you pass a manual, you're not going to get the BMW, because your insurance is going to be too high. Because to buy, it's not that expensive, like I mentioned the price of that already, but to insure it and run it, I don't think a 17, 18 year old that's just passed will be able to afford it. It's something like this that you'll be able to afford, and this is why I brought this. It's a C1. It's so cheap to buy, around £1,000. Road tax is about £20 a year, and fuel, it's cheap. It's cheap as chips, because it's not got a big tank, and it's got a 3-cylinder 1-litre petrol engine. So I mean, how much is this going to cost you to run? I mean, this is Shubzi's daily driver, so shout out to Shubzi for lending me this car. He doesn't use this car anymore, but when he used to drive to work, this is the car he used to use, because he didn't want to put mileage on his Golf R. And again, perfect example of how he's got a manual license and he didn't want to put mileage on his car. He bought one of these. You could even do deliveries in this, you know, Uber Eats and stuff, and maybe even Amazon Flex for all I know. I don't know what the requirements are, but you get the idea. Cars like this can actually earn you money because they're so cheap and they can repay what you put in. The other option is obviously the fact that, you know, you're a newly passed driver and you need to find a car, you need something cheap and cheerful, and this is exactly it. Now, this isn't going to be something you're going to be proud of, because it's not in the best state. I mean, it's not the nicest car. Again, we were talking about petrol head earlier. Now, if you're not a petrol head, you're going to be able to drive this car and you're not going to feel any emotion towards it. So for example, Shubzi doesn't care about the bodywork of this car at all. He doesn't care if people make it muddy, dirty. He doesn't care if people lean on it. He just doesn't care, because he has no emotional attachment. It's a car. It gets you from A to B and it does that job, nothing more, nothing less. And there's something beautiful about that, because I've got a Prius, which is my daily driver, alongside my R32. So I kind of respect that. I mean, look, I just got flashed to get out of the way because I'm going too slow for this Mini, and I can't even be upset because this car isn't that fast. Anyway, great. So I'm too slow for the fast lane, far right lane, and I'm too fast for the middle lane. Okay, it's opened up. Anyway, the other thing as well, passing when you first drive is you're gonna ding your car around, aren't you? You're gonna go to a parking space, and let's hope you don't ding someone else's car, but you may ding it against a wall or a bush or something like that, and you don't want to do that on a nice expensive car. You want to be driving something like this which you can ding around, and that's the whole point. Something like this is genuinely perfect for those things. You have no idea when you pass, when you go somewhere to park, and you're gonna look at the spot you park and be like, I don't know how I feel about this space. I feel like someone who's coming a bit too fast can clip me, clip my wing mirror or something like that. In a car like this, you just don't care. You genuinely won't care. You will park it where you need to get to your destination. If it saves you 30 seconds of walking, you will park in the most dangerous position you can find just to save those 30 seconds. And that's the beauty of one of these cars. And another thing to note alongside of this is, if you want to learn how to drive manual, one of the other things to consider is, are you going to drive a van? A lot of vans are manuals. Now some are automatics. Day by day, there's more automatics out there. But for some businesses, they only have manual vans. And if you want to be a worker in that trade where you have to drive a van, you're going to need a manual license. And something like this is basically pretty much a van but a small van, because I think if I told Subzi I wanted to transport dead body, I think he would genuinely lend me the car. Automatic licensed drivers pass faster than manual drivers because they have less to learn. Learning clutch control and how to work a gearbox and how to maneuver around it is a skill, and they skip that because all they do is go from park to reverse to drive to neutral, whereas we've got 5 gears and a reverse gear, or 6 gears even. So there's a lot, and a clutch to learn. So there's so much more to a manual car, and that's why passing with an auto is so much more quicker and easier. But you are robbing yourself of the skill. Now you have to sum up, do you want to learn the skill or not? Because most modern cars are automatics, and in the future with electric vehicles, they are going to be automatic. Your skill of knowing a manual car will not come into play anymore. So you have to really weigh up whether or not you want to, whether you need to learn a manual or not, because it's about wanting at this moment. I'll be honest, previously it was always about needing. You needed to learn how to drive manual. In this day and age, I'll be honest, I think it's about wants. Do you want to learn how to drive a manual? One thing to note though is insurance is typically more expensive for automatic only license owned drivers. The reason for that is statistically they're more likely to make claims than drivers that have manual license as well. So something to bear in mind, they're basically saying you're not as competent as a manual licensed driver if you have an auto one. That's not me saying it, so don't take that as a dig from me, but something to consider. You're going to pay more on insurance, so maybe it's worth spending a bit more extra money on the lessons, learning how to drive a manual car because your insurance is cheaper. Who knows? But anyway, there's just so many factors into whether you should learn how to drive a manual car or not. Ultimately, it is your choice. You're the one that's gonna have to learn the skill. You need to decide what your brain says. You can either learn the skill or you don't, but ultimately it's your choice. There's benefits and drawbacks to both, but ultimately the choice is yours. Personally, like I said, if you're a petrol head like myself, I've never regretted the day. Never. I love manual cars, and I will continue loving them until the day I won't be able to. And that's a skill that I'm so happy that I have. But if you don't care about that skill and you're going to pass and you're going to jump straight into an EV, or you're going to finance a brand new Polo or a Fiat 500 with an automatic gearbox, then guess what? Maybe you don't need a manual license. But if you're someone that's going to pass and this is something that you're going to have to drive because you can't afford to drive a brand new car, or you want to learn how to drive in something you don't care about, you're going to need one of these. And that's the beauty of learning manual, because you will not be able to buy an automatic car at the price point of one of these. No chance. You know what I hate most about this car? It's got no air conditioning, and on top of that it's got rolling windows. On a 2007 car. And the gearbox is so bad. When you put the car into third or second, you're not even sure if you're in second. Like, it's the gating on this is so bad. How much did they save by stripping out window switches from this car? I don't think they saved that much. On top of that, this car doesn't have central locking. That's right. That's why the key doesn't have an unlock button. You have to put the key in manually. So you have to put the key in manually to lock both doors. So if you lock the driver's door, that's left unlocked, you have to remember to lock that with the key as well. So something to think about if you're looking to buy a car with no central locking. It's an absolute pain. But considering the job that it's made for, which is to be a runaround, like I said, it can be good for a new driver. It all depends on your circumstances and what you want it for. These cars are still amazing. Every car has a reason for existing. It's just about who does it appeal to. I hope this video has given you an insight into whether you choose to get a manual license or not. Ultimately, there's no wrong answer, and the choice differs based on your needs. but I strongly believe there's a few categories you have to abide by. If you're a car enthusiast or petrol head, it's a no-brainer. Get a manual license. If you're on a budget, decide on whether you can afford a decent automatic car once you pass, or if it's worth spending extra on lessons for the cheaper insurance and cheaper car at the end, as well as getting a life skill. Or if money's not an issue and you will always drive new cars and you want your license quick, then just get the automatic license. Just be prepared to live with whatever decision you make, because you won't go back to learn manual if you choose to skip it. As always, thanks for watching this video. Do remember to like, comment, share and subscribe if you haven't already, and hang tight for the next upload. We'll see you soon.